Hey guys, GeekJ here, and today I'm gonna show you how to go from sounding like this to sounding like this. Let's do it. It's gonna be a longer one. So, welcome back to another GeekJ video where I make tech, tutorials, and gaming simpler and better. Let's get to our desktop and we'll start this tutorial by showing you a very simple new installation of OBS Studio. And as you can see here, we have almost nothing. There is the default scene. The default scene collection is just the untitled. There is no profile. It's a brand new installation of OBS. So we're gonna first work with OBS Studio, and then we're gonna move on to Equalizer APO so we can make all of our settings and VST plugins work universally on our system without the need of OBS Studio running in the background. As I've shown you in the video up there, just click on that thing. I think. Just click it, click it, click it. So we're gonna be using a lot of different VST plugins, and I'm gonna have all of these linked in the video description below, so you guys can also download these free plugins and use them and follow along with this tutorial. It's going to be super simple and it's not going to cost you a single penny. So let's get started with noise suppression. And this is usually our first line of defense against unwanted background noise, basically, like fan noise or keyboard clickety clackety noises and stuff like that. So I'm using RN Noise. If we navigate to his GitHub page, we will realize this is the exact same built-in noise suppression filter in OBS Studio. The reason we're going to use the standalone version is we have a little bit more control, and at the same time we'll be able to install this in Equalizer APO afterwards and have an active noise suppression set up universally on our system. As you can see here, I am in the GitHub page of Noise Suppression for Voice by Werman. We're going to go to Releases and we're going to click on the +8 releases, and as we can see over here, the 1.10 is the latest version. Depending on your operating system, just click on Linux, Mac, or Windows, which is win-rn noise. Just click on this, download the zip file. So I will double click on this zip file, and as you can see here, we have a folder. It says win-rn noise. Let's go into the VST folder, and we need these two DLL files. And as per usual, we'll navigate to our program files, find the VST plugins folder, and over here we can create a folder like Werman RN Noise as I've created, and we just drag and drop these files and our VST plugin is basically installed. For plugins without installers, this is the basic way of installing them. You just drag and drop the DLL files in the VST plugins folder in C program files. So after we've done this, we're gonna go here in our microphone auxiliary input. We're gonna click on these three dots. We're gonna go to filters, and we're gonna press on this plus button. And over here, we just need to add a VST2 plugin. I'm going to name this RN Noise, and click on the OK button. Afterwards, I'm going to find from this drop-down menu the RN Noise stereo plugin. And you need to use stereo because otherwise the sound of your microphone will only come out from one channel only. If you're on stereo, it's going to be on the left side or on the right side only. So you need to use stereo to have sound from all possible channels. And we're gonna click on Open Plugin Interface, and as you can see here, this is the active noise suppression plugin. We're just gonna close this. I'm usually leaving this in the default settings and I don't even touch the threshold, as this is an active noise suppression plugin. So if you start doing some kind of noise, like let's say start typing on your keyboard, maybe the first 1 or 2 clicks are going to be audible, but after that, the plugin by itself will just smooth out the noise and the clickety-clackety from your keyboard, for example, will not be audible. So next up is our noise gate, and think of this as our audio bouncer, and it will only let sounds through when it's above a certain volume. And for my setup, I usually set the threshold to -30 dB, but it actually is unique to every person's voice and environment or room and complete setup. You have to see where your voice lives first, and then you can adjust to where you want your noise gate to basically start cutting off noise. So to do this, we're going to use the Reaper plugins, and let's navigate to the Reaper website and download the free plugins. And as always, I will have the links in the description below for you to download. So after we navigate to the Reaper plugins download section, you can see here we have 2 options, 32 and 64-bit. Just trust me on this, you probably need the 64-bit version. So just download the ReaPlugs VST 64-bit version of the ReaPlugs. So after you've downloaded and installed the ReaPlugs, press the plus button again. We're going to add another VST plugin, and we're going to name it Rea Gate. And click on the OK button. From the drop-down menu, we're going to find the Rea Gate plugin. And as you can see here, it says Rea Gate Standalone. I'm going to click on this one, and then we're going to click on Open Plugin Interface. And as you can see here, my voice lives around here. So I need to have this set up in a threshold that it does pick up my voice, but any softer sounds are not going to be caught by the microphone. So let me start moving this, and usually I am setting it to -30 or -32. So let's actually do that. So anything under the noise gate level is not going to get caught by the microphone. So we have 2 lines of defense. The first line of defense is our noise suppression, and the second line of defense is our noise gate. So we're gonna close plugin interface by clicking this button. Moving on, we're gonna add an equalizer, but it's gonna be a third defense. And what I mean by that is I start cutting unnecessary low and high frequencies. And if you're asking why, so low frequencies can add rumble or muddiness to the recording or your voice in general, and high frequencies can pick up hissing noises or very high-pitched noises that can be very, very annoying, especially if you're doing a podcast, for example. So I cut everything below 80 or 70 hertz, and also I cut everything above 15 or let's say 17 kilohertz. And we're gonna do that by adding another plugin. So we're using again the Reaper plugins. We're gonna click on this plus button. Again, we're adding a VST plugin. And this time I'm gonna name this Rea EQ. I'm gonna add in parentheses freak cut and click on the OK button, as we'll be adding more equalizers later on for different reasons, so we need to distinguish. From the drop-down menu, as always, we will select Rea EQ Standalone and then open the plugin interface. So let's start by adding a high pass filter over here. We're gonna click on this type and select the high pass. And for the frequency, I'm gonna manually add, let's say 70 hertz, which is very low frequencies. And then for bandwidth, we're gonna try to make this line over here as straight as possible. So I'm gonna keep it at 1.68. Seems pretty flat. We're gonna do the same for the low pass, but in the meantime, we don't need those 2 other bands, so I'm just going to disable the second and third and I'm only going to keep the fourth one. And we're going to go with a low pass as the type. And then I'm going to manually add, let's say, 17 kilohertz. And for this one, I'm also going to try to make this line as straight as possible. We don't want to go above, right? 1.14 seems okay. So we're going to click on the close plugin interface button to exit out of this. So next up is the compression. And this is where the magic happens, because it levels out your audio. And what that means is it will make quieter parts louder and louder parts softer. So we will have a level output of our voice, even if we're screaming or even if we're whispering. So let's add this compressor. We're gonna click the plus button. Again, we're gonna add a VST plugin, and I'm gonna name this one RIA Comp. We're gonna click on this OK button, and from the drop-down menu, we're going to select RIA Comp Standalone. I'm gonna press on Open Plugin Interface, and as you can see, this is where my voice lives. So usually, what I do for my voice and my environment is I select around minus 25 dB. You can do it manually by moving this, or you can just add the value you want. And I prefer a ratio of 4:1. I sometimes like to have a knee size of 2.5. And I click on Auto Makeup. So basically, this is the sweet spot. We want our voice to live in between these orange parts, and everything that goes over is gonna get cut off by our compressor, as you can see over here. Everything that you see in this red column means it's pushing down our levels, so we have a level output. So even if I speak loudly, or if I speak very softly, you can still hear my voice and it's not clipping. So it will level out all of the sounds, even if you're screaming or whispering. Let's click on the close plugin interface. So after clearing up our audio and leveling out our outputs, the next thing we can do is what we call coloring the voice, which is adding some personality to our voice. The best way to do this is to add another equalizer. But before we do that, we need to know how that sounds. In order to know how our voice sounds while we're making the changes, the best way to do it is, first of all, wear headphones. I repeat, wear headphones, because this can be very annoying, very loud if you do it on your speakers. Okay? Wear headphones. Right. Okay, moving on. I hope you're wearing headphones. So, we will click on these little cogs over here, and you can see your mic auxiliary input in the advanced audio properties of OBS. We're gonna move to the right, and in the audio monitoring section, we're going to select monitor only mute output. Okay, I'm not gonna do it now because we're gonna be in an endless loop of my voice coming out of the speakers, getting picked up by the microphone, and then we're gonna have a lot of feedback, which could result to damaging your own equipment, like your own sound card or even your speakers. So you need to wear headphones when you do this, okay? Just making sure you guys understand. When you click this, you need to be wearing headphones. Okay, I'm gonna close out of this one, and now we can add another equalizer. So I'm gonna press on the plus button, go into the VST plugins, and I'm going to name this RIA EQ. And then I'm gonna add in between my parentheses coloring. I'm gonna click on the OK button. From the drop down, we're going to select RIA EQ Standalone, and then I'm gonna click on the Open Plugin Interface. As I speak, you can see where my voice lives. It's in between those frequencies over here, and sometimes we go over to high frequencies over here when I'm making an S, or what we describe as hissing sound. So if you're asking yourself, which frequencies do I boost and which frequencies do I cut? Well, I didn't know either, as I'm not an audio expert, I'm not a professional. But anyway, I found a cheat sheet and I'm gonna share it with you. I didn't make this. It's from producerhive.com, and I'm gonna have a link of this in the description below as well. So let's make this one bigger. It says download the vocal cheats EQ sheet in full high resolution. I'm just gonna click on it and tap off the image, and now things get a lot clearer. And as you can see, it says the low end rumble 20 to 80 Hertz, often due to proximity, effect, and unwanted artifacts. This is what we cut off earlier, if you remember, right? Then we have the core vocal frequencies, and it's not like set in stone where your voice will leave, but like for example, mine I think is in between 150 to 400 Hertz, but you have to consult with this and make sure you know where your voice lives. So mine is around 150 to, let's say, 400 to 500. That's where the, let's say, main oomph of my voice lives. So anyway, going back to this cheat sheet, you can see that you are supposed to boost some of this, and it says as a warning, too much of leads to boominess, too little thins out the sound. So this is why it's important to wear headphones. So for me, I found that the best settings for my voice are for my first band over here, to set this to band, and I usually go manually and add 150 Hertz, and then I boost this slightly. Never go above 5 decibels when you boost or cut off something. So I'm gonna go with 3 decibels, and then I'm gonna narrow this down to these specific frequencies. So as you can see here, this is kind of universally grabbing a lot of these frequencies and boosting them, while I just wanted to be right around here to the 150 Hertz area. So we're gonna grab this and we're gonna drop the bandwidth to around 0.75, 0.76 is fine. And as you can see, it's basically flat around the areas we don't want it to boost, but it does boost the 150 Hertz area. So let's see, cheat sheet again. So this is the box region, and you can see it's in between 350 to 600 Hertz. So we have to be careful again with this one, and we need to be monitoring while we're making changes. As you can see, it says it's a fine line between boxy and hollow. Balance carefully. So for my second band, I went for around 480 Hertz. Let's do 488, and I needed to cut some of these. So I went with -3, I believe. Let's do -3. And then again, I wanted to make this a lot narrower, because as you can see, it grabs a lot of the other frequencies, and I didn't want it to do that. I just wanted to cut off some stuff in between those frequencies, the 488. So I'm gonna drop this to around 0.5. Let's move on to the next frequency, mid-range byte, and it's in between 1 and 4 kilohertz. A busy area that competes with guitars and synths. Pay attention to harshness. What I found works best for my voice, I found that around 1.5 kilohertz, I need to drop this down a little bit. Let's say 1.5 is gonna be okay. Okay, 1.5. The frequencies don't need to be that narrow, because I do need other frequencies to be caught into this, so I'm gonna go with a bandwidth of 1. So let's see, cheat sheet again. We're gonna move to the sibilance zone. Try broader Q curves to have better control over the brightness. So let's move to the fourth band over here, and I'm gonna go with a band again. If you wanna check where your sibilance is from, you can do a test. The proper way to do it is to hold a hissing sound to see where your hissing is basically coming out from, which frequency. So for example, I'm gonna just do it for a few seconds here. Okay, so you can see my hissing sound comes out at around 8,000 hertz. But usually this is not exactly how your hissing sound sounds when you're speaking. So you should try saying a lot of words with S's in it. So let's say I'm speaking right now, and you can see that basically where my hissing sound comes from is not the 8,000 hertz area, but it's around the 4.2 to 4.5 area. So as you can see, I'm speaking and I'm saying a lot of words with S's, and yep, this is around the area I should be cutting off. So let's say it's around this area. I'm gonna manually leave it here, and I want to cut off a lot of that sibilance that's coming out. So I'm gonna go with, let's say, SS, this is an S sound, SSS, yes, this is S, okay, this is pretty good. And I want this to be a lot more narrower because it's bringing down a lot of the other frequencies. So I'm gonna go with 0.37, 0.3 in general is fine. What we've actively done over here is we've managed to bring down the sibilance of our voice significantly, so we probably don't even need a de-esser, and we're not going to be using one in this type of setup. So let's go with the next option, the air region, 10 to 20 kilohertz. So roll off to taste, boost to creative effect. So basically this is the sparkle we want to add to our voice. We're out of bands. What do we do now? We just click this add band button. We're gonna go with a high shelf. And I'm gonna boost basically everything after the 10 kilohertz mark. So 10,000, I'm gonna add a 5 dB gain, and I'm gonna leave the bandwidth at default. It's really important that you monitor your own voice. Do not copy these settings, because these are the settings that work really well for my voice. So lastly, we're going to add the limiter. And this is, let's say, our safety net to prevent our audio from clipping. It's the final, let's say, polish to keep our audio professional. We're gonna be using D16's Frontier limiter, which is another free plugin. So I'm going to navigate to their webpage, and I'm going to have the link again in the description below so you can download it as well. And the link I'm providing is directly pointing to this plugin download. So we just click on this free and then get button, and after you've downloaded the MSI file, you install it. I've already done that, so I don't need to rerun the MSI installer. I'm just going to add the Frontier limiter over here as a VST plugin on my OBS setup. So I'm again clicking on the plus button, selecting the VST plugin. I'm gonna name it, let's say, D16 Frontier limiter. I'm gonna click on the OK button, and then from the drop-down menu, I'm going to select Frontier. We're going to click on the Open Plugin interface. And as you can see here, we have a lot of different settings. And the one I've found works best for me is clicking on the presets over here, and I'm going to select Potent Mastering. And then I'm going to click OK. In order to get this to a desirable level, we can keep monitoring our own voice with our headphones on, and at the same time, we can check this microphone auxiliary section here. If it goes too much into the red and even goes close to the 0, we need to bring the output level further down. So we're just gonna keep talking and move this little knob until we are satisfied with the result. So this is a pretty good result over here. We're not gonna mess with any of the other settings, and we're just gonna click this close plugin interface button. And pretty much this is a perfectly set up audio for your own voice. The next step would be to click on this cogs button again and disable the monitoring by setting the audio monitoring to monitoring off for your microphone auxiliary output. Then click close. So the next and final step is to move this whole setup into Equalizer APO. And we want to do that because we don't want to run OBS Studio in the background constantly to get perfect audio out. We want this to work universally on our system so we can sound great on Discord, Zoom calls, and anything else we'd like. So how do we do that? We're gonna have to run Equalizer APO. We're gonna create a new little setup folder over here by clicking on this new button. And we're gonna add a plugin, VST plugin. We're gonna click on this little folder icon. And for example, we want to add our first filter, which is the Werman RN noise, as we can see here on our OBS setup. So we're gonna select again the R noise stereo.dll. We're gonna press open, and pretty much we don't need to change anything on this plugin. So if we open the panel, we can see that everything is working correctly. We tick on this apply automatically, and then we click apply and OK. We will do the same for the rest of our settings. So go again to the plus icon, plugins, VST plugins. We're gonna click on this folder here, and we're gonna go back to VST plugins. We're gonna select RIA plugs, and the next plugin we're using is RIA Gate. So we find RIA Gate standalone here, we click open, and then we can open the panel. As we've discussed before in the video over here, you can check that by clicking that card thingy. It's up there, just click it, it's up there. We have no visual representation of what's happening. So this is why we were using OBS Studio, so we could get the right numbers to input into these sections. So what I usually do is go over here on my OBS Studio, and for example for RIA Gate, I'm gonna press on this open plugin interface, I'm gonna move it to the left side, then I'm gonna maximize my Equalizer APO over here, and I'm just gonna manually copy the settings. So I want it to be -32, and basically we didn't bother with any of the other settings, everything else is set to default. And I'm gonna click on the apply automatically, then click on apply and OK. So this is set up as well. I'm gonna click close plugin interface. Next, go to RIA EQ frequency cut. We're gonna open the plugin interface, move it to the left. We're gonna go again and maximize our Equalizer APO, add filter, plugins, VST plugin, and we need the RIA EQ. Open panel, we'll just add all of our settings. Just copy them over. So once you're done copying over all of your settings, what you need to do is to go up here to the file and click on save as. And you're gonna save this with a name of your choosing. I've chosen Blue Snowball EQ.txt. After you save this, you need to tell the Equalizer APO software how to know which of these profiles it should use. The way to do this is you go in your main config folder, click on this plus button, we're gonna go to control, select include, and as you can see in the parentheses it says include configuration file. and we can click on this folder icon, and then we can select any of these configuration files we've created. After we click open, you can see that this is turned on. It's the blue Snowball equalizer txt that we've created. So now we can basically exit out of this, and then we can delete all of these filters we added on our OBS Studio setup. One by one, everything is gone. We're gonna close out of this one, and I'm gonna show you a little demonstration of how we sound with the filters on and with the filters off once again. And this is how we sound without any filters. This is the raw sound of the microphone without any filters. And this is how we sound with all the filters on. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video and it was helpful for all of you that want to sound better. Either if you're just talking with your friends or in Discord, or if you want to have some decent audio quality when you're on a Zoom call with your coworkers, or if you are a streamer or doing some podcast. I hope this is going to be very helpful and it's going to improve your sound vastly. Also, if you guys have other questions like how to install OBS or how to install VST plugins, and maybe soon to come how to install Equalizer APO, I will have links to those videos right about there, I think. So click at that, okay? Just click it. You're gonna like it, I know. So thank you for watching. If you liked this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It's extremely helpful if you leave me any comments with questions, and also don't forget to click on that bell and enable all notifications. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Bye.